All right, everybody, welcome back. I just wanted to take a moment to talk about some timing issues that we can fix, especially in this dialogue track, to get it to be really smooth. When you're working with dialogue, a lot of times we are using composite tracks, or better yet, we're creating composite tracks. But when we do that, we have to make sure that we pay attention to the smoothness, right? The naturalness, and make sure we recreate that even after we composited a track from a bunch of different takes. All right. So one thing I didn't mention in the other video, just make sure you're cutting out the typical sounds you should cut out. Maybe I did mention, but just like you're going to come across a lot of different like mouth noises, I think I did mention that, but just make sure you're cutting these out because they're everywhere. It's up to you whether you want to cut out breaths or not. I will ask you to add other types of sounds, ambiances, and music and sound effects. So that may cover up, if you decide to cut out breath sounds, it won't sound as unnatural. But that's definitely up to you. Just remember, for instance, right here, I'll play it for a sec. These little mouth noises, just cut them out. So what we have here is the composite take that I created from all these different takes. Take as much time as you need. It really pays off to be meticulous about this type of editing, because then you don't have to worry about going back to fix little, tone or level or pacing things if you take your time. So for right now, let's focus on pacing. All right. If you'll notice here, there's this huge pause. I'll play a clip of this for a moment, and you can hear this awkward pause. These are things engineers have to do. They have to fix timing, whether it be for comedic purposes, dramatic purposes, or just general flow. So let's take a listen and just hear how awkward this gap is. It doesn't fit with the rest of the flow. The warrior. He's the last samurai man. How is he skilled enough to be the last? Right? That's a huge pause. So what I would do is just hit Command E or Control E, create a little breakpoint here. Try not to cut too close to the phrase because you want to give it some room to breathe. But just do a nice little trim here and use your judgment, because maybe a little pause will be nice. But what we'll do now is we'll merge these two clips together and let's see how the pacing feels now. He's the last samurai man. How is he skilled enough to be the last M&M in the bag out of all the other M&Ms in the bag? Right, so you give yourself enough time to let this phrase breathe, but then you don't have as awkward a pause, right? I'm going to make this even shorter, right? So let's say here, and then just check out the little bit of noise that you actually have here. So I would create some trims, right? Get rid of some of this yucky mouth noise, and then create some fades here to fade out and fade in smoothly. So let's take a listen to that. Samurai man. Oopsies, I actually cut out the man part. So that's why you always have to be careful. You can't always edit with your eyes, because this ended up being man, which is still maybe a little too soft. So horrible. I like the way I delivered the line, but the volume of it is definitely not ideal. So let's give it let's separate the clip, Command E. I'll give it a little bit of a booster with the gain. Help that pop out a little bit more. Okay. Man. Samurai man. Okay, a little bit better. Cool. So what I'll do is I'll delete this little clip here. I will zoom in here, add a little fade, and then let's hear how that sounds now. He's the last samurai man. How is he skilled enough to be the last M&M in the bag out of all the other M&Ms in the bag? Right, so that flow to me is just less awkward than that huge gap before. And notice, as I was going along, comping the clips together, I used the markers feature to make sure that I say, oh, remember to go back to that. This was a problem area, for instance. So let's hop over here and see what the problem is. I like to call it, other people will call it luck. I like to call it destiny. It was destiny combined with the talent that... Oh, something got off here. Some people will call it science. Other people will call it luck. I like to call it destiny. All right, so I marked this area because I felt like, once again, the timing is just like a little too dull, right? I think it'd sound nice to have this phrasing sped up a little bit, create some more anticipation and urgency. So I'll just literally highlight and delete these sections, right? Move these over just a bit. And let's hear how that timing sounds. Some people will call it science. Other people will call it luck. I like to call it destiny. And maybe I'll move this one back a little bit. Give it a little bit of room to breathe. And so this is how you can make something more musical almost, make dialogue have a certain rhythm and cadence. I'm going to turn down the volume of this clip a little bit. I felt like it popped out a little bit. So let's just check this out now. Some people will call it science. Other people will call it luck. I like to call it destiny. It was destiny combined with the talent that made this little fella survive. Right? So that helped with the timing, just giving it a little bit more energy up front, and then it kind of laid back after. So these are the types of pacing things that you'll really want to go through and fix. This was a little awkward. Survive. This little fella survive. Like I would cut out this little middle chunk here and bring these clips closer together. Boom. Let's drag them here. Do a little crossfade. And let's hear how that flows now. Little fella survive. This little fella survive. Picture it. All of these other peanuts. Some bigger than you. Some faster than you. Some smarter than you. All fighting to stay in the back of the bag when you turn it up. Right? And then this one, for instance, I think could be a little bit faster, have a little bit more urgency. So in this case, since this is a whole phrase that I feel like could use a little bit more drive to it, I'm going to separate the clip from the rest. So Command E or Control E. And then I'm going to use that time compression and expansion feature I introduced earlier in the semester. So I'll right click, go to TCE. So I went up to Smart Tools, the first box highlighted in blue, TCE, time compression and expansion. And I'll just speed this up the slightest bit, just to give it a little bit more urgency, right? All right. And always be careful with time compression and expansion, because if you do it too much, it sounds goofy in either direction. All of these other peanuts, some bigger than you, some faster than you, some smarter than you, all fighting to stay in the back of the bag when you turn it upside down to eat one of them. He deserves to be set free. Ooh, yeah. So this one, I feel like there could be a little bit more, a bigger gap, right? I feel like I jumped into that phrase. So I'm going to hit Command E and pull this back a little bit. When you turn it upside down to eat one of them. He deserves to be set free, just on moral obligation alone. Call me crazy, but no matter what you say, I'm always going to let the last man go. All right, so I'm just adding a little fade here. I'm going to turn down the clip gain. So notice how even though I'm focusing on the pacing and the timing, every edit and cut I make, I'm also making certain adjustments. For instance, I'll trim this here, add a little bit of a fade. You just saw me turn down the clip gain a little bit to help even out the volume between the two different clips. So again, this is why I like to break down the editing into different kind of phases that I focus on, because then I can really make sure that I nail that particular phase. But at the same time, I can make all my little micro edits to cut out mouth noises, breath sounds, equalize the volumes and things like that as I go too. So let's take a little bit of a listen to that edit I just made. Let's see and see how that sounds. The back of the bag when you turn it upside down to eat one of them. He deserves to be set free, just on moral obligation alone. Call me crazy, but no matter what you say, I'm always going to let the last man go. Yeah, and then just, if I'm being nuanced here, I'd probably cut some of these things out, make these a little bit faster, just because I felt like the timing was a little bit slow. So just get a good rhythm and, try not to overcut. Just make it sound natural, right? I'm not perfect, so you'll have to fix my my many mistakes. You've always got to let the last man go. It's honorable. He's the last guy to make it out of the bag. The warrior. He's the last samurai man. How is he skilled enough to be the last M&M in the bag? That's kind of an awkward jump. Lower the clip gain a little bit. But yeah, so that's the gist of fixing timing and pacing issues. Remembering that you can manually cut and move things back or forward. You could use time compression expansion to speed up entire phrases or words. But the most important thing is just get a natural flow and make tiny adjustments to volume and, fades and things like that. So that's it for this video, and check out the next one.